All right, ladies and gentlemen, if I could have all your attention, joining us now in the press conference room here at Kansas Speedway is Carl Edwards, driver of the number 19 Sport Clips Toyota for Joe Gibbs Racing. Carl, welcome home to your home track here at Kansas Speedway. You come into this weekend in good shape in the chase standings, but obviously if you were able to notch your first career win here at Kansas Speedway, that would make you very secure heading into the Eliminator round. Just talk about how your car felt in that first practice round and how you guys are approaching this opportunity here this weekend.
Well, yeah, it is definitely good to be here and be racing and be driving in the Sprint Cup Series at Kansas. We talk about it every time I come back here, but it's a really special place for me. And I already had the chance to talk to some folks that I raced against, before I got into the stock cars, and that was cool. I was talking to Dale Roper in the garage about our race we had at Moberly when I was driving Scott's truck, and Clint was in that race too. And so, for me, it's just it's a cool place to come. And yeah, a win would be huge just because of that, but it would also obviously be huge because we want to advance to the next round of the chase and be able to pursue our ultimate goal, which is the championship. So yeah, it's an important race, and practice went well. I'm really proud to represent Sport Clips. They came on board in a huge way to sponsor the New Hampshire race and this race, and they actually offered me some tickets to the Royals game tomorrow, which was really nice of them. So just super people, and hopefully we can do well for them.
Not a bad deal at all. We'll go ahead and open it up. We'll start right here with Jared and then come up front to the star. We'll work our way around.
Yeah, Jared Turner, FoxSports.com, Carl. Talking about Kansas, I'm just interested, is there any kind of, possession you have that you'd be willing to trade for a win here? And then secondly, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about a guy that you raced with some in past years, Chris Buescher, who has had a great year in Xfinity. Just sort of assess his progress from afar, if you don't mind.
I can't think of a possession that that I wouldn't trade. I have a really nice airplane, but I would for a win here right now. I mean, I can't think of anything I wouldn't trade. I mean, we do what we do, and everybody at the shop does. Everybody at JGR, what we do is try to go win these championships, and we give everything we've got. And so, if it were that easy, yeah, I don't think for me personally, there's no amount of money that a win right now, and especially here, would be worth. So. Or wouldn't be worth. But as far as Chris Buescher, he's awesome. He seems like a great guy, and he races very well. He seems like he's not easy to fluster, even when things do go poorly for him, from an outside perspective, watching and just being around him a little bit, it seems like he's really confident, and he's very even and steady, and that's why when I was broadcasting that last race, I mean, I said publicly, I think he's going to be the guy to beat. I think he's going to be tough to beat, and it's just those guys don't quit over there either. I know those guys well enough at that shop to know that they're not going to give up. He's doing well.
All right, we'll come here to Todd and then go to Bob and Dustin.
Hey, Carl, Todd Palmer, Kansas City Star. We talked in the spring, and things you were still trying to kind of settle in and get a rhythm with Darian, and then you finally get that fuel mileage win, I think in June or whatever it was, and get settled in. Did that allow you to kind of relax and really start to develop a chemistry with this team over the last few months?
That's basically exactly it. So we got that win. It was like, man, that's what we needed. We just needed something to rally around and to let the pressure release. We knew we didn't have to go out and set the world on fire after that. It gave us a little time to work together and to get to know one another better. And now I feel so much different this second time around. If you take a snapshot at the first Kansas race and now, our team is different, and we feel like we're just better. And yes, a lot more calm, and I feel a lot better about it.
And you mentioned getting tickets. Are you going to go to the game tomorrow? And were you a Royal? Columbia's kind of. Were you a Royals or Cardinals fan, Crow?
I honestly was a Cardinals fan, and I know. And then, but man, they're good folks, and Mike Mittler. I drove for Mike Mittler, and Mike had a deal with the Cardinals. They had I don't remember what they called it, but it was like a fan day, press day, whatever. And they let us bring our truck over there, Mike Mittler's truck, and I got to sit there and sign autographs and stuff. I met Albert Pujols. I didn't even know who he was. He's the coolest guy ever. I just thought he was some guy that worked for the team or something. I had no clue. He was so kind and nice, and turns out I saw him on Sports Illustrated the next week or something, and called him. I was like, man, I can't believe it. So anyway, those guys are so good. But then the guys at the Royals, they let me throw out the first pitch last year, and Ned Yost and those guys. I mean, they're just so cool, huge race fans, and really they were so good to me that it was really fun to watch them last year. So I don't know who I'd cheer for now. They're both good teams. I don't know if I'm going to go or not. I don't know if we'll be done with all of our stuff. I think game starts at 2:30 or something. So 3. So I'll see. I hope so. It'd be fun. I can tell you one thing, that after throwing that pitch out, that was about the most nerve-wracking thing I'd done in a long time. And I walked off and went back in the dugout. One of the pitchers just looked at me and said, "Man, it's awfully lonely up there, isn't it?" And I said, "Yes, sir." That was pretty crazy. So, but that was a neat experience.
All right, we'll stay here on the left with Bob and then Dustin.
Bob Pockrass, ESPN. Last week you kind of held your line when you felt somebody was blocking you. How do you weigh how aggressive do you need to be when you know something like that? I mean, it could have been just as bad for you as it was for him.
Yeah, it is tough. Right now it's so difficult to pass at some of these mile and a halves. Everyone is very protective of their positions, and everyone's aggressive and trying to get every spot you can. But it's racing, and you have to do the best you can. You got to make decisions in the heat of the moment, and every once in a while stuff happens. But I'm definitely glad that we didn't suffer any damage from it, and I wish it wouldn't have turned out the way it did to end up ruining the 88th day. But it was just tough racing.
All right, Dustin.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Carl, 5 of the top 6 drivers in the points have been with their current teams 3 or fewer seasons. When you made your move or made the announcement, it was kind of the last one of that group in about a 2-year period. Why is it that you guys have had that type of success? Is that more than coincidence? Is there something to when you're first with the team, and I know you've talked about the pressures early on, but still to be in this position, to have this type of success in your first season?
I don't know. I don't know what it is, but definitely it appears. Yeah, it's just anecdotal or whatever. I don't know the stats, but it appears that when people make changes, the performance goes up. And sometimes it looked like even guys, that basically kind of switched organizations. Both had a rise in performance, or at least in results. So I don't know what it is. I can tell you one thing, that when you make a change, like the change I made, it was such a big change. Everything was so new. It does make you. It made me really question everything I was doing, and in some ways, it probably spurred me to be a little more self-critical and to try harder, just to prove myself to a new group of people. But man, I don't know. I don't know all the psychology of it, but I hope it yields the same result that it's yielded for some of these guys. I hope we finish very strong.
All right, we'll go in the back to Pete, and then right in front of him with Mike.
Pete Pistone, MRN.com, SiriusXM. I'm interested in this concept of what the fans do in terms of energizing athletes. When we see baseball, basketball, football, hockey, you can hear that crowd. You can't really hear it here. Do you feed off that energy, though, that is in the grandstand?
That's funny. I didn't ever think of the fans as being a part of the performance of the team or the driver. I really didn't. I thought, we build the cars and we come to the track, and we meet fans and we appreciate them, but I didn't understand how important they were until I went through my first real lull in my career, and I think it was 2006. It was 2006, maybe the first part of 2007, when things kind of went down, and it's like all my expectations weren't being met, and I was really questioning. I'd had one good year, basically, and I was struggling, and the fans meant so much to me. I had so many fans come up and, say, like, "We believe in you, we're behind you 100%, we know you can do it," and man, to me, there was a day I was having a really bad day, and some fan came up to me and gave me basically the pep talk that I needed at that time, and it really helped me. I mean, it was really cool. So that's really the moment I realized that your fans and that support can not only feel good, but it helps your performance. So that means a lot to me.
We'll stay in that same area with Mike.
Mike Embry, USA Today. Based on the summer and some other parts of the year, the chase opened with most people listing Gibbs and Penske as sort of the favorites.
Yeah.
Now 2 of your teammates are struggling to catch up. You still look at Gibbs overall as a real potent team for the rest of the way?
I feel like so much can happen here at this race and obviously at the next race. I mean, this whole thing can get turned upside down in one lap, at Talladega. So I don't know. I've been kind of reluctant to say, hey, I think these are the 2 teams that are going to be the favorites, because it's just, by definition, this format, or by design, it's almost impossible to predict. And I think all you can really do is look at who's got the most speed, who's really fast as a group, and say that the fastest group has probably got the best chance just because they're fast. That kind of makes everything easy, but there is no telling. I mean, I don't know. I feel like we've got, I really believe we have the most well-rounded performance from the cars, engines, pit road, the calls that are being made. I feel like, it just feels like we as a group are able to get the best finishes, the most consistent and good finishes. We don't necessarily have the fastest speed at every race or anything like that, but it seems like we've got a good solid group. I don't know if I'm describing that well, but it's not, we don't have any area where we're really lacking, I guess, and that's overall has helped us.
We'll go up the center with Matt.
Matt Weaver, AutoWeek.com. 2 questions for you, Carl. First, we've talked a lot about the aero package and what we're doing with the bodies and with the downforce levels, but not so much about tires. So I'm curious, what sort of dialogue have you had with Goodyear, and what sort of things would you like to see moving forward?
Well, the way I understand it is that the tire, basically Goodyear doesn't want any tires to fail. I mean, that's their business, is to provide safe tires. As NASCAR takes more downforce away and the speed comes down in the corner and the loading on the tires comes down, it allows Goodyear to make a tire that has a little softer compound that's more fun to race on, that makes it more competitive. But Goodyear is really, the tire they can bring can only be so, quote, good, and because of the amount of force that's in them, on the tires. If you look at the size of our tires and wheels versus the amount of force that's on them, it's higher, per square inch, I believe, than any other form of motorsports right now. So, so basically, Goodyear is they'll respond with better tires as the car becomes, better, less downforce, less speed in the middle of the corners.
And my last question for you is, you've been around now for over a decade. You've driven several different packages, and you've been one of the more vocal guys about how we need to take the downforce off. So I'm curious, from your perspective and your tenure, what do you think is the timeline about how we've allowed ourselves to kind of get away from that in cars that have so much downforce, and the splitters and the spoilers?
Right. Well, it's a direct correlation. The more aero dependency race cars have, the less fun they are to drive and the worse the racing is. That's it. I mean, and it's been, in theory, that's how it works, and in practice, that's how it works. So NASCAR is definitely going the right direction with their announcement for next year's package. And I know that they're, at least it feels like they are going to continue to go that direction. It's very important to remember that low downforce is relative. It's not, where we're going next year is not low downforce. It could continue to just get better and better. I mean, we could have some really spectacular racing if it was more of a no downforce situation. So hopefully they'll continue to keep doing that. I don't know. It's pretty complicated, but basically, who knows what everyone's goal is, right? I mean, some people's, sometimes it feels like the goal of the sport is to make it so that everyone's more equal, right? Or make it to where it's easier to drive so more people can win. And that appears on the surface maybe to be good for the sport. But I think we need to, I just think it's important to remember that race cars are supposed to be hard to drive. There's supposed to be a lot of talent involved, not just engineering. And I think NASCAR recognizes that. And I'm telling you that what they're doing for next year is going to be a huge step in the right direction. Kentucky was a blast. I mean, Darlington was really fun. And to me, like I've been saying, that's one step in that direction. We should take about 5 or 6 in that direction, and then have some of the greatest racing that's ever existed. That would be really cool.
All right, we're going to take our final question for Carl from that same spot.
Kathy Sheldon with NASCAR.com. Carl, a lot of people looked at, or a lot of drivers looked at this section of the chase and saw Talladega as the race to worry about. But this race can get a little bit tricky too, with either fuel mileage or tire wear. How do you see this week's race unfolding?
Well, this race can be really tough because the restarts are going to be insanity. I mean, everyone's going to fight for their positions like we saw last week, and it's so fast. I mean, you're going so fast in the center of the corners here that one wiggle, one problem that somebody has can be a massive wreck. I mean, and we've seen that here. So there's no telling. I mean, just anything can happen. As long as we're driving around 200 miles an hour and everybody's getting every inch they can, I don't know that statistically Talladega is tough, but this one can be, like you said, it can be really tough.
All right, we're going to take one more quick question for Carl here.
So whatever you guys.
All right, great. Yeah, we'll get one more in with Jerry before we let you out of here.
Here today. Where are you guys from? Where's that? Oh, cool. What are you guys doing here? You're trying to find a spokesperson, right? That's it. Okay. Oh, okay. All right. That's cool. Have you given it to him yet? Obviously you haven't. So, all right, cool. Hey, I can speak for most race car drivers. We like gifts, so that's great. So.
Carl, Jerry Jordan, PRN, Kicking the Tires. I just wanted to follow up a little bit on Matt. You were the big proponent of the low downforce. How much further would you like to see this go in that direction?
I mean, really, for me, it's pretty simple. So the question is, why would you want some factor that would affect the cars behind a guy? So why would you want to rely on downforce when that's air? Really, the air being disrupted is the only thing that can affect where one car can affect the other. It's the only variable with which if there's a guy following me in the current package, there's a guy following you and he's running the bottom and he catches you, you can move to the bottom and you can basically take away his grip with your car. Well, that's not something you want in racing. So to me, you'd get rid of all of the aero dependency so that the car in front of you didn't have any effect. And Ryan Newman astutely pointed out that if the cars had lift, like a regular stock car, a spoiler, it's called a spoiler because it spoils lift. That's the whole idea. So a regular car drives down the highway and if it doesn't have a spoiler, a little bit of, low pressure builds over the top because it's curved like an airplane wing and the car lifts up. Well, if these cars had lift, the guy in front would be at a disadvantage. The guy behind wouldn't have as much lift. He would gain grip and could actually catch the guy in front of him. So I believe that's why you saw some really great racing back in the day, is that there wasn't much downforce. And in fact, there may have been a little bit of lift on the nose. And so, when we go back and if you go back on YouTube and you look at some of these races, there was some really neat racing. The other thing that happens in these cars is the sides of the car are very flat, so they have a large surface area on which the air can work. And so a difference in pressure makes a big force. And so when two cars get close together, a little venturi between them sucks them together. And so that's why you see, the inability to race side by side once the speeds increase, because the inside car gets sucked upward into the outside car. So in my opinion, you need to round the sides of the car so there's less surface area for that to work on. But all these forces are happening. All the engineers understand it. All the drivers know how to use them to their advantage. And so, the farther away from all that stuff we can get, the better, So.
All right, Carl, thanks for joining us. Best of luck this weekend.
Man, I said all the drivers understand how that works.